Welcome back to the TOWKA Talks podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. I met this person over 5.5 years ago in Air Force basic training, and somebody who I really look up to and admire. Sir, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me today, and welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here.
So, go ahead and tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, why you wanted to join the military and the Air Force specifically.
Yeah, so I am a Air Force Pararescueman. I've been an active duty PJ for about a year and a half now. I joined the Air Force in 2019. I was going to school to initially get my bachelor's in business communication down in San Antonio. But early on during that time, I found it very boring and I did not like it. So I just decided to get my associate's degree and get my basics done. That's when, around that time frame, I was interested in becoming a pilot because my cousin was a pilot, and she was kind of introducing me to people around the school who were joining the Air Force as well. And that's whenever went to like a special warfare recruiting event and heard about like this Marine who got shot a bunch of times and blown up, and a PJ ended up saving him, and the PJ was actually one of the dive instructors that I went to whenever I went to dive school. And at that time, I was like interested in becoming a Navy SEAL because it was super sexy and super cool. Um, but then this guy was saying that like PJs are the ones who save the Navy SEALs, and I thought that was very interesting. And so that's initially why I did it and why or what piqued my interest initially. But I sucked in the water, very, very horrible, and could not swim a 500 meter to save my life. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go TAC P because, no offense, TAC Ps, but it was easier to um, at least get your foot in the door at that time. And my developer, who is a really close friend of mine and I consider a mentor, he saw my potential and what I could do, and how much work I was putting in. And because even though like during my development sessions, like whenever we would work out, the TAC Ps would not go into the water because they didn't have to. But even though I was going towards TAC P because it was easier and I didn't have to get in the water, he made me get in the water just so I can get better. And in time, I was able to crush a 500 meter, and I'm very thankful that he pushed me to that extent. And I was able to pass the pass test. And yeah, I had a bunch of hiccups, which to me at that time I was going through like, maybe is this something I should be doing, because there was like a waiver that popped up because my hearing was bad or something, and or I had childhood asthma whenever I was a kid, so I had to get a waiver for that. And I was just thinking it was like long um, periods of time that I needed to wait in order to get these waivers approved. And I just thought that it wasn't going to work out and I was going to have to go do something else. But this is why I felt I was called to do it by God, because out of all these hiccups that I went through, God made a way and I was able to get out the door, and now here I am.
For anybody who doesn't know or is not as familiar with special operations in the Air Force specifically, can you kind of go through like the timeline of when you were going through, like what you had to go through with basic training, with selection, and then kind of like the other schools? Just if you can go a little bit more detail about it.
Absolutely. So whenever you decide you want to be special operator in the Air Force, you have to go enter what's called the development program, or the DEP program. I'm sorry, it's the delayed entry program, excuse me. But when you enter the delayed entry program, you get into the development program. Then you have to go to a developer in whatever region of the country you're in and train with them, and then they decide whenever you're ready to go and start your career. Then once you start your career, you go to basic training, which is about 8.5 weeks. After that, You go through what's called SWIC, I believe now. It's changed multiple times, but from last time I checked, it was called SWIC, which is a Special Warfare Candidate course, which is roughly about 8 weeks as well. And that's just preparing you for assessment and selection. Um, you Your job at that and SWIC is just to work out and eat and sleep. You work out 3 times a day. You do a running workout, strength and conditioning workout, and a swimming workout. And usually they consist of roughly about 2 hours each. Um, After that, you'll go to assessment selection, which I believe is about 8 weeks now as well. Um, that's where they train or they assess you on who you are as a person. Um, and they look for specific attributes in like the perfect operator, if you will, like how professional you are, your integrity, your leadership skills, your communication skills, your physical fitness, how well you can handle stress, your drive, how well you can work with others. And there's just different events that they do to assess you on those specific attributes. And they sleep deprive you and they also food deprive you as well. Um, That's yeah, roughly about 8 weeks, and after that, if you get selected and you're the right fit for the job, deemed by the instructors or the cadre, then you go to pre-dive, which is, I believe it's about, yeah, it's about 4 weeks as well, 1 month. Um, that's just the mental aspect of it and making you into a fish, essentially, drowning you, doing drown proofing, a lot of finning, a lot of water confidence every single day. And if you make it through pre-dive, then you go to dive school, um, which right now I believe is just PJs, combat rescue officers, and special recon are the only ones going to dive school now. And that consists of open circuit and closed circuit scuba diving. Um, then after that, you go through airborne in Fort Benning, Georgia, and SEER school in Spokane, Washington. Then you go to military free fall school in Yuma, Arizona. And then you go to your respective uh, pipelines after that. So up until then, like all the special warfare candidates are all combined into one class, if you will. But after pretty much after free fall school, you go like the PJs will start medic school, and then the combat controllers and the special recons guys will go down to um, combat control school, and I believe it's a special recon school. And I can only speak on pararescue and what the PJs go through. Like right now, after free fall school, you'll stay in San Antonio. That's where the paramedic school is at now. It's called MP3. Um, you'll get your EMT basic license and do a little bit of like a week of clinicals from EMT basic. And then once you get past that registry, you'll go right into paramedic school, which is roughly like 4 or 5 months long. And just learn all about, you'll have world class like paramedics from around the country that will come and teach this course. Really good guys, and really want you guys to pass, and we'll make sure you guys are knowledgeable and competent enough in paramedicine in order to pass the registry and become a confident medic. Then after that, you do like a little 2 week tactical med course in San Antonio as well. That's kind of just transitioning you from the paramedic mindset to a PJ medic mindset before you have to go to PJU in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is what you'll do after that 2 week long TAC med. And then you start PJU in Albuquerque, which is roughly about 6 months. And that's the last course you guys do.
So pretty much from the day you walk into the recruiter's office to the day that you quote unquote become operational or a PJ is probably around 3 years, would you say?
Yes, roughly about 2.5 years. If you don't have any hiccups at all, like if you don't get washed back, you don't get injured, it should take you about 2.5 to 3 years.
So it's a long time. It's a journey for sure, to say
Yeah,
the least. Would you say?
absolutely. It's definitely a marathon not a
For
sprint.
anybody who has aspirations or dreams of doing a job similar to yours, does it take a special kind of person in your experience or the guys that you've worked with and are training with to do this type of job?
It does. It takes the way that I look at it is you have to be selfless for one. Um, Even though there are some guys out there who are not very selfless, but either way, they volunteer to do this job, which in turn they have some of that inside of them. Um, but you have to be selfless, and you have to be a dog. You have to have like that grit and that drive inside of you that no matter what is getting thrown in your face, it's not gonna like you're not gonna falter and you're not gonna fall or you know um, have a victim mentality when things are getting stressful, you're hurting, and you want to quit, but you have that dog in you and that drive, whether it's from God or if you're not a believer, then whatever you use to light that fire in you, that's what usually everybody who gets selected has inside of them.
And what nowadays, do you know what the attrition rates are like for the Air Force as far as the amount of people that are getting selected and making it through the pipeline for PJs? Is it pretty consistent year by year?
From from my understanding and just like my past history, I've noticed that it's pretty much the same. Because I was in San Antonio for a very long time, and I helped with a lot of the assessment selection courses, and they're pretty much the exact same for the most part. Um, like my class, we started with roughly 120 guys. Um, we finished with 55, and then only 35 of us got selected. And then out of those 35, maybe 10 were PJs. I will say like 15, maybe like half of them were PJs. And then out of those 15, maybe only like six of us made it all the way through PJU.
So it's a very, very selective process and a very, very small group of people that make it all the way through in the long run, to say the least, would you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
your why definitely has to outweigh what you're doing.
absolutely. Yeah, that'll come up multiple times throughout your pipeline, and your why has to be very, very strong in order for you to make it through successfully um, and to crush it, to say the least. Because guys like will just make their way through and just survive the entire time, and those guys really don't um, aren't very well liked, if you will.
Now the 120 guys that started in your class, I would probably guess that the majority, if not all of them, were pretty much like studs or beasts from a physical standpoint. Would that be fair to say?
I would say in their own way, yes.
Like, because it
You know,
seems like the majority of people nowadays, especially over here in the States, aren't even able to even try out for just the regular military. So special operations is a very small group of people that just get the opportunity to try out and to get their foot in the door. So like, is
right.
there from what I've been told in the past, PJs are horny about the water. That's a direct quote from somebody who told me that, who actually is also a PJ as well. Do you have to be so calm, confident, and collective under pressure, especially in the water, since PJ's responsibilities and duties are a lot of underwater missions and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's actually a funny quote. I would agree with that absolutely. Um, there's just so many things that could go wrong with scuba diving and doing a dive mission. And the dive missions going on right now are mainly like for searching for things or recovering um, bodies, which I have not been a part of. um, but there's like the ocean is just unforgivable, and you have to be able to just go into zen mode whenever things are just going absolutely wrong. And pre-dive and dive school, at least for me, helped me get to that point to where I literally felt like a fish in the water. And even to this day, even though I haven't swam as nearly as much as I did whenever I was in dive school, whenever I do touch the water, I still have that calm, cool, and collectedness that's just been ingrained in me from pre-dive.
So when you're on deployments, as an active duty PJ, can you kind of go into what you kind of your everyday duties and responsibilities are, just so that the people watching at home can kind of have a better understanding of what they'd be getting into?
Yeah, so I can only speak on a rescue deployment or a CSAR deployment, if you will. Um, Depending on where you're at or what's going on in your life, you either do 3 or 6 month deployments. If you're in the guard, they have it super duper nice. They only do 3 month deployments, and then they split the 3 month deployment up within their guard team. So you have guys only doing a 45-day deployment. But for us on the active duty side, we do 6 months deployments. Granted, if you're like augmenting a team, or if you have family stuff going on, they usually do like 3 month deployments. But on those deployments, on a excuse me, combat search and rescue deployment, um, you are providing PR, personnel recovery coverage over the entire area of operation that you're going to be deployed at. Um, so your job is to pull alert, make sure you have all your gear, and whether it's going to be like a jump mission, a dive mission, anything that you can think of. You have two teams, roughly, like whenever you're on a rescue deployment, you have a rotary wing team, and then you have a fixed wing team. Um, each team consists of roughly about like 10 people, and um, rotary wing guys are going to be dedicated to going to pick up people, and the fixed wing guys are going to be dedicated for a dive or like a jump mission. Um, yeah, and you're just pulling alert, waiting for something to go off, and your day to day is dependent upon your leadership, your team leadership. Usually, if you want to get workout in, of course, get that physical fitness in, and then also get as much training as you can while you're over there on deployment every single day. Um, Making sure you're honing in the skills that you want to work on, whether it's tactics, ropes, or medicine, or just like professional development. Just becoming better as a man, um, and just as a human in general. Like learning different things about like briefing or things about the Air Force that you can teach to other people that may not understand. Um, so it's roughly, like it's kind of similar, like um, on the state side, but uh, you're just dedicated to training and becoming a better person and a better PJ, because you have all the time in the world out there.
So you're like constantly training and constantly learning one, if not both of them at the same time is what I'm getting at.
Yep. And depending on where you go, like right now, there's a lot of augmenting opportunities. Like, we work with ODAs, um, training, our allies is a big thing as well. Um, but also there's opportunities for like working with a ground surgical team as a PJ, which some guys did on deployment. Um, they're like you, and depending on the area of operation you're at, there is a dedicated like surgical team to that area. Um, and all like the big trauma events that, or the trauma patients that happen in that area, they go see them, and then you have the opportunity to work directly with that surgical team to provide surgical capabilities and help out.
Are PJs, would you say, probably some of the most highly trained medical professionals in the entire DoD, if not the top, definitely at the top of the list?
Yes, I'll say we are the most highly trained enlisted medical professional in the entire Department of Defense. Just because we have capabilities to of what a nurse practitioner can do. Like not many medics in other branches can do fasciotomies, escharotomies, crikes. Not they don't get a lot of the training that we get to make us proficient and confident in our skills. Like all the medical courses that we get to go to. Um, but what sets us apart is like the tactician that we are alongside our vast medical capability that we have, and also our immense rope knowledge and technical rescue knowledge. Um, we just bring so many things to the table that um, that's why they call us the jack of all trades. We have a lot of things to provide and to bring to a team, and usually every other medical professional in other branches, they only provide medical capabilities, which is good. It's a good thing, but we have more to bring to the table.
So what do you look for in a teammate, like somebody who's aspiring to be a PJ? Like what are some of the traits and qualities that you personally would like to see in somebody, whether it's a guy or a girl, if they want to do what you're doing, whether it's the enlisted side or the officer side? What do you look for in somebody as far as somebody approaching you saying, "Hey, I can run this fast, I can swim this fast, I can do this many calisthenics, I have a basic knowledge in medicine." What do you kind of look for in people like that have approached you on the street or even in the military that have asked for advice?
That's a great question. Um, hmm. Me personally, the best teammates that I have, they are just some of the most selfless people that I have ever met. They're willing to put down their life and for you, for one, but they're also willing to any like use their time to help you become better. Me being the newest guy on the team, I had guys who would just help me with whatever I needed, and they would drop anything that they were doing at that moment to help me to become better. And they didn't give me, any crap or for it for not knowing because I was the new guy. They understood that they used to be in that position as well, and they want to make my life better and not go through what they may have gone through. So they're selfless. They're not lazy, and they have a lot of drive just to become a better human overall, physically, spiritually, and mentally by just doing hard things. And they're also very professional whenever they have to be. But they have a good switch that they can turn on and off from. If they need to be professional in a moment, then they can. But whenever it's time to kick back and hang out with the team, they can flip that switch and are able to bro down, if you will, is what I call it.
And for the other side of the coin, for the guys or girls who have pursued special operations, pursued that life to become an operator, maybe just it wasn't their time, or it was just they got injured really bad or had a really bad setback. What advice would you give to somebody out there who maybe wants a second chance at it, maybe for something a little bit different, or if they want to go back into it? What advice would you give to them?
I would say spend a lot of time to get some introspection and on who you are. and truly figure out whether you're a believer or not, then that would be spending time with talk in prayer and talking to God and asking, because he talks about seek first the Lord or the Lord's kingdom, and He will provide like your steps. Um, so if you pray, like you like for me, I had a lot of hardships in the pipeline, and I thought that I wasn't going to become a PJ, and I prayed a lot, and I had one of my best friends who helped me quite a bit during this hard time in my life. And he would just say, like, okay, just pray this prayer. Like, I have these plans and I have my ways, God, but provide me the steps. And just try and stick to, and if you're not a believer, then I would say to meditate and truly think about what are things you like and you enjoy doing. And if becoming a special operator is something that you want to do, then you cannot hesitate, in my opinion. Um, Try and make every single opportunity, or try and find an opportunity to make it possible, whether that be talking to operators, talking to recruiters, um, just see what type of avenues you can go through to make it happen, because they're out there, and everybody, and we need guys who are selfless and who have that drive and who really want to be here and do it, and not just do it because it's like it just looks cool or sounds cool, because this job, all of these special operating jobs, like they all deserve the very best of everyone who does it. And if you're not going to give it your very best, then you shouldn't be here or be pursuing it. Uh,
Has being a PJ been everything that you had hoped it would be? Like from the time that you heard about them and then started preparing for the journey that it took to become operational? Like, has it been everything that you hoped it would be?
I would say yes, it has, um, because being on team um, has been everything I ever thought I was going to be. You know, I love my teams so much, and after the deployment that I went on with them, like these are guys are now my brothers, and we've just got to do some really fun and amazing stuff, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it, and I don't think I would be happier doing anything else right now. Um, I do have higher aspirations, in the career field, which I'm sure most people do. But definitely, as of right now, it's everything I ever thought it was going to be.
Now, I just want to say this last thing. This is the first time that I'm seeing and speaking to you in like at least 5.5 years since we were both basic airmen over in basic training. And before I got separated from the flight and then discharged from the Air Force, I never got to tell you or to the rest of the guys that were in our flight or even the MTIs. I'm sorry. It wasn't for me. I'm sorry that I couldn't go along and suffer with you guys and be successful and learn the things you have and become the operator that you are now. But I'm truly thankful to have met and to have learned and to at least gotten something out of it. And I was thankful to have been a part of your journey for what you've become. And I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you do. And it means a lot to have a friend like you as well in my corner and somebody who I admire and does the things that they do.
I appreciate that very greatly. Um, you helped me a lot in basic training too. I don't know if you remember, but I was a okay runner, and after just seeing you run like the freaking gazelle that you are, I was just I don't know if you remember, but I was like asking you like just advice and like how I can run like you, and you helped me quite a bit because of with the advice that you gave me. So thank you, because now I still use it to this day.
I appreciate that. That means a lot, man. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a huge thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and consider subscribing and joining the TOWKA tribe. If you didn't watch the last podcast episode or the last YouTube video, the links will be in the description below. I'll see you guys on the other side.